everybody. Thanks for watching. Merkabah Scholar Society members, make sure you guys saw videos 1 and 2 for the Amazon course. The final video will be releasing tomorrow. So we get into Shopify, setting that whole thing up. And by the end of this course, you guys should have 3 new incomes. So this is the most, toughest part of the course, the final one. It's a lot to get into. As I said, this stuff is real meticulous when we get to this level. But, for the most part, a lot of people are already making money. But you guys will have multiple streams of income by the end of this course. No way around it, guaranteed. So third and final video, a lot to get into. But you guys can get a lot more hands-on and personal with this one. And, I'll show you guys some other cool things. I already gave you guys a lot of gatekeeper secrets, some of my own personal ones, because I got a bid against you guys and some of that. But as I said, there's no way in the world anybody who follows this stuff shouldn't be making multiple streams of income. So information is here. I've been putting it out. As I said, we touched on it in personal economics, but we get a lot more deeper here. And it's a lot to get into. So, don't get, don't feel stressed or, don't put any doubt or strain or stress on yourself. It's a lot of meticulous stuff, but I'm right there guiding you guys through it and show you how to get there. But, anything that is worth this kind of success, you got to put some work into it. The thing is having the knowledge to do so. And that's what a lot of people lack. So again, a lot of gatekeeper secrets, a lot of things that's going to help you get over a lot of those hurdles that you guys probably got stuck at along the way. And it's better doing it this way with me showing you these steps. So if you run into a problem, I know what you're talking about because you follow, this path versus something I don't know what you guys did and why you stuck. So consultations as well. I'm extending consultations until November, possibly December. But I see a lot of people are using the consultations to get more insight into this information. So I've been talking about a lot of that as well. It's only but so much I can put in the videos, and everybody's experience is going to be different as far as the path you choose to do this. As I show you in the course, everybody's going to take a different route and sell different things and do different things. So it's going to be different issues for different people, right? So a lot of people use the consultations for that as well as many other things. I've been talking to a lot of people. It's been cool. So I'll extend it. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. You have access to somebody who has made millions of dollars doing this. I showed you guys my numbers. I showed you guys everything. You've seen my success. So you have access to somebody who has actually been there, done that, and can show you along the way. So take advantage. A lot of stupid people will not. So kudos to you guys who understand what's going on and what's been taking place. Also, Merkabah Scholar Society membership still open. Link is in the description. Link for consultation is in the description. The only reason why it's still there, I have not raised the price yet. It's because of the app. App has been approved. It will release. Just adding new things to it as it goes along. So basically, I learned my lesson from last time. When they approve something, I know I'm good. Then I add the next thing that gets approved. Then I add the next thing versus them just canceling the whole thing and saying start over, basically how they do it over at Apple. You don't even really know a lot of times what's the problem. So this is the smart way to do it, but it has been approved. It will release. Once it releases, that's what we'll implement mostly in using Merkabah Scholar Society. We'll go through the app a lot, but it's been fun so far using Google Meet and how we've been doing it. It's been working cool so far, but it's only going to get better. And a lot more information we'll be able to share. So yeah, take advantage of the consultations, links in the description. Take advantage of all the information that is coming out. But we get into these rundown videos. As I said, I'm editing a lot of videos. It's one of the reasons why things will take a little bit longer to release because I'm editing a lot. The nonsense video, every time I go to edit it, I realize I forgot something. So I jump back in there and put it in. But I'm also editing multiple videos. So thanks for the patience on that. Basically, lock myself in a hotel. I'm working, I'm grinding. So getting everything out to you guys as quickly as possible. So stay tuned on that. We got a lot coming up, a lot going on, but I appreciate the support, everybody who's been participating and showing up for meetings and everything like that. So yeah, that's for the Scholar Society members. Make sure you guys are staying tuned and engaged and watching your calendars. So yeah, a lot to get into with that, but we're gonna get into this rundown video. I want to keep you guys updated on what's going on. Did a live last night. I'll do another live probably tomorrow. But But we get into this rundown video. Stay tuned for these new videos that's going to be releasing. And take advantage of everything that's available now and will not be around forever. So shout out to y'all who's taking advantage so far. But yeah, let's get into this video. Wow. So when you start to get into it, Joshua was just basically picking up where Moses left off. Now, a lot of you was basically asking me about which Bible am I using. And again, I told you guys before, we're going to go through it using the Masonic King James Version. You can use the King James Version as well, but the Masonic one is just the one I'm going to use because there's a lot more to it. Some stuff hidden that we're going to be able to really dig into more as we go along, as I'll point out eventually. But we're going to use the King James Version. Now, it's saying here in Joshua. This is Joshua chapter 1. 1. Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses, for the wilderness and this Lebanon, even unto the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your coast. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. So again, common sense question, how is it that God is going to be able to give these people this land? Call it the promised land. Keep saying that it's their inheritance. And we understand an inheritance is something that's passed down from your parents, and this land didn't belong to their parents. This is something that this God is saying, which we all understand, this God being, the powers that be, saying that this is your land, go and take it. Now, the only way they can take it is to take it, to commit murder. This is where we got to cut the bullshit of the Bible and get into people's head and get them to understand what's taking place here. What are you talking about? This God is supposed to be just and loving and what have you, and the creator of everyone, when he's giving the order to go and kill his own people that he supposedly created. You have to look at the Bible or look at religion in the context that everybody is talking about today as having this God being all-knowing, loving, or what have you. The same God who's supposed to care about everybody and all these rules supposed to be in play, telling these people to go out and murder, kill infants, which we'll get into, babies or what have you, kill them all, everything, and take this land that's promised to you. And as we're going to continue to see with these Hebrews, these people are not even following the law. So if we can say, if you want to say that, God came and this is his chosen people and God is choosing to kill all these people in this promised land because they are disobeying God or they are worshiping false idols or what have you, anything you want to say, what you're going to see as we go along is the Hebrews doing the exact same thing that these people who they are wiping out are supposedly doing and getting by. How is these people supposed to be special and set apart when they are clearly doing the same thing as everybody else? So this is how one of the things you can see and understand that it's bullshit. It's bogus, what it's talking about. But this is important for you to know, what they're calling the history. And this is how we're going to break it down and really understand it. But clearly, you can't justify people getting land through the means of murder, which is just crazy. So, God basically tells Joshua to keep the law, coming out his mouth, to know it. To know the law, keep talking about it, meditate on it, and don't ever let the law leave his lips. And as I said, Joshua goes on to continue the conquest. So it's saying here, this is Joshua chapter 2, verse 1. And Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, Go, view the land, even Jericho. And they went out, and they came unto a harlot's house, which a harlot is a prostitute, named Rahab, and lodged there. And what we're going to see in the beginning of Joshua, they're trying to take basically Jordan. I mean, this is the whole story with Jericho and everything that's going to come up here. As we get into, or as you read the first books of Joshua, not too many people are going to be able to put together what's taking place here. So, they're going to take try to take Jericho, try to basically take Jordan, but you have to understand how the story is being put together, how we are basically seeing the story of Moses over again, because Joshua is basically doing the same thing. Now, what you'll see here is the Bible recycles stories. It does this a lot. And there's a reason for it, as we'll get into. But, they did this before. Well, when you understand with Joseph and Jesus, which we'll get into later, of course. But you'll start to see as we go along with Joshua that a lot of the stuff that Moses did, Joshua does, and the same type of stuff that the writers wrote about far as the major things of Moses, or issues with Moses, we're going to see with Joshua. But if you remember from Joseph and New Testament Jesus, take a look at some of the stuff that is basically the same. A lot of people was trying to say that, the Jesus character, and this is one of the arguments of the Hebrews or the Jews, that the Jesus or Christ character is based off of Joseph when you look at Joseph. So we know with Joseph, you had a miracle birth. Jesus was also a miracle birth. Same thing with Joseph. Joseph had 12 brothers. Jesus had 12 disciples. Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver. Jesus was sold for 30 pieces of silver. So you had Judah, who suggested the sale of Joseph, and you had Judas, who suggested the sale of Jesus. Both men started their ministry at age 30. Joseph started at 30. Jesus started his ministry at age 30. So this is something a lot of people pointed out before as them basically trying to use the Joseph character to basically, piggyback off with the creation of Jesus. And when you look at the whole thing with Moses basically leads the people out of a state of oppression, supposedly oppression, them being oppressed in Kemet. So he leads them out of a state of oppression, and you have Joshua lead them into a state of conquest when they are conquerors and they are conquering these lands. So you have that parallel right there. You have Moses parting the sea. You have Joshua drying up the river. Remember when they coming into Jordan, basically on the way to Jericho, he dries up the river. The river runs dry for them to walk on. So you have, the parting of the water with Moses, and you have the drying of the river with Joshua. You have under Moses, the Hebrews basically disobey God. The same thing as we're going to see is going to happen under Joshua. They're going to disobey God. Under with Moses in power, Moses dies at the end of his books, which is the 5 books. It's the end of Moses. At the end of this book, as you will see, Joshua dies at the end of his book. So you have the same comparison where the Bible is basically recycling stories for a reason. And we'll get into that. But, you're going to see this throughout the book. As we're going through this, you're going to see it's stuff that's going to jump out to you that you never heard of before, never seen. It's going to make you just question everything like, why the hell didn't they tell us about this? There's so many stories within the book that is really going to help you understand it more. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because until you read it all the way through and you start, going through it as if it's a one big long story, that's the only way you're going to see the contradictions, the flaws, the problems, the issues, and the hidden story that's behind the books of the Bible. So, we're going to pick up on a lot of this stuff as we're going through. So now you have Joshua sending out spies out into the land. Remember, Joshua was one of the 12 spies that Moses sent out to basically spy on Israel before. So he was one of those spies. Now he goes out, sends these spies. The spies run into a woman named Rahab, who is basically a harlot, a prostitute. She takes them in. Now she says, basically, we've heard about you. And this is one of the major parts, as I talked about before, that you got to really understand when it's talking about here, the histories of the Bible. This history can only be found within the Bible. So, of course, you would think during this time where you got the Hebrews doing so much conquest and conquering that the neighboring territories and land would get wind of these Hebrews who seemingly have this God or this power behind them. You would think that everybody would know and either try to come together to do something against them, or at least write about them. You will find something that a civilization put out, talking about how powerful these Hebrews is. Any other major civilization that we find in history, look at the Caesars. Look at the Greeks. Look at the Egyptians. Look at the Mayans. Look at so many civilizations that left stuff all over, that you have people from distant territories and places or what have you speaking about that specific people because they did something so amazing. So if the Hebrews was, people who was going out conquering and doing so much, you would think we will find something on them outside of the book itself, which we do not. So basically, Rahab takes them in, and she basically says, I heard about you guys. I know that God is basically on your side. So I will take you in. I will hide you. And all I want is when y'all do your thing, because she knows they're going to basically destroy everything. When y'all kill everybody, just leave me and my family alone. So that's basically what she says to him. Leave me and my family alone. When y'all come in here and do your thing, I will hide y'all. I will tell y'all whatever y'all need to know in exchange for that. But you have to also remember, repeatedly, God tells them that do not leave nothing alive. Destroy everything. Everything that breatheth. Kill them all. Make no covenant with them. Remember that part. So that's basically, covenant is a deal. You might as well say. So they basically say, okay, and they make a deal with Rahab to not destroy her family, what have you. And that's what will come to pass. So this is something you have to look at, and really, they really want to get you guys to understand the genocide, the murder, justify it somehow of the Hebrews and what they was doing, and to try to, get you to warm up to the part that eventually these people will keep disobeying God so much that they will fall. This is what you'll see that's iterated a lot, over and over again, this constant deception and constant disobeying, I should say, of the Hebrews of God's law. So now all the scholars and people who read the book look at this point, including the Jews themselves, and say, this is unbelievable. This is a shame. And you have people who are seemingly okay, why are they being slaughtered by God who's supposed to be so loving and merciful? Now you have the Jews call this period, because you have to look at this period as a people and say, what is this that, we supposedly did so much murder and, committed so much genocide on the planet that this is somehow, justified or right. So the Jews call this the herem. The herem basically tries to justify or basically try to explain the murder and genocide of the Jews. So now it says here, this is basically exploring the deeper meaning of the herem. In the Old Testament, there are a number of books that contain violent stories that may shock the casual reader. Of course, some of these stories seem to encourage not only the slaughtering of enemy armies, but also the murder of innocent civilians. The book of Joshua in particular contains a number of such tales. In chapter 6 through 11 of the book, God instructs Joshua and his followers to obliterate dozens of enemy armies and subsequently orders them to lay their towns to waste. Joshua and his followers put to death men, women, children, and livestock by the edge of the sword. Biblical scholars refer to this process of systematic destruction in which all those who oppose the Lord are laid to waste as the herem. Many readers find this concept to be highly disturbing. Some feel it runs counter to Christian and Jewish belief. They question why the loving and merciful Lord would command his followers to carry out these gruesome acts. So now when you read that, it makes you believe that they understand what's taking place in the Bible is wrong. And that if you put this in the context of today, with human life today, real world, if you had a person that was purposely, knowingly taking human lives, what you side with that person. If his reasoning was, these people are evil. To me, these people are evil. They're not doing what I say they should do. They're not doing the right thing. They should be killed. I mean, of course, in that context, you wouldn't take their side. You would say this person is crazy. So you have in certain instances where you have people looking at this whole instance of murder and genocide or what have you, and they're taking this side and trying to justify it somehow. And when you continue to read, if you was to read that whole explanation there of the herem, that's basically what they try to do. They try to say that, the murder of these people is somehow good, for Israel and good for the people, and basically trying to express how God is basically trying to teach these people a lesson. And maybe that God has a better divine, feature for these people that's killed, or it's just all, part of some plan. And just these people were purposely put here for the Hebrews to murder and, to justify their existence, or to bring their existence into some kind of, purposeful meaning that's going to be beneficial to everybody involved. I mean, it's just fucking bogus when you pay attention to it. What it really is, and I talked about this before, is to justify to later generations the murder and genocide of innocent men, women, and children. It's just that simple. Now, if you get the people at the highest ranks to buy into the biblical stories, then, that's easy to do. But it's going to be harder for you to get just regular Joe Blow to go along with killing and murdering innocent people. So the Bible is just one of the justifications for that. So when we today and people in later societies look at, what their people are doing to other people, they can say, okay, well, this has been done for years. This is the way it's always been done. This is war. Kids die in war. And there is no justification for the killing of an infant. I just don't understand that, especially on the part of a God who supposedly put the souls in all of mankind, for him to create, this supposed soul in this child, knowing that this infant is going to be killed and slaughtered in a brutal way, a brutal way, by a sword, by some soldier some Hebrew that he's commanding. I mean, think about that, a baby. So, this goes into, which we'll get into eventually, the whole thing with the sacrificing of the children and what's going on with the church and everything like that. All the pedophilia, which is in the Bible, pedophilia, we'll get into, and so much more. So it's the justification of that. When we look at the troops today, look at what these soldiers got to go through, going to countries, blowing up buildings and killing innocent people. And we've seen the pictures and the videos on the news of the babies being crushed in these Syria with the buildings falling and what have you. These religious people look at this as, just habits of war, things that take place, things that must happen because the greater good is more important, And, until people are put in that situation, they never going to understand how wrong it is. People just, and we do it too as black folks. We just, whatever. And it goes with that whole thing, our cry for, freedom and justice or what have you. And, you have to look at the fact that if they are willing to go ahead and wipe out one of the most holiest lands in existence, Syria, when you really pay attention to the Bible and everything we're talking about with the wars of the Diadochi, everything we're talking about now in the beginning of the 5 books of Moses, we're talking about so much biblical history taking place in that area. Talked about Isaiah, 17:1 with Damascus, the whole prophecy. So much biblical history is right there. For them to be bombing it should tell you something. Now, to the believer, they will look at it and say, well, they're just fulfilling a prophecy. This is what God said would happen. And this is how, they can justify it. But, reading these verses and seeing what's taking place is different for us when you understand the context of it. As I said, you have to understand that it's the Greeks conquering our lands. The lands that you see today that you believe belong to these people was once ours. You have to understand how many European nations are still there. Even with Serbia, Greece, we know, Carthage and Greece, all of it was ours. Rome, ours. These lands that's right here was our lands, occupied by African people. What we're reading is the destruction, the genocide, the murder of those people and the taking of those lands and how those lands, became what they are today. So when you understand that, understand what it's saying in the book, and when it's talking about history, that is the history. And these people are not the people they say they are, as we know. But the story goes on, and we'll see how that unfolds to reveal us the truth. So we have to look at these, 5 books, these 6 books we in now. The beginning of the Bible, beginning with what? I mean, it's not hard to make this connection, which we're going to get into this again. But quick connection. We look at history itself, where it's beginning, seemingly beginning with Kemet. And then you have all of a sudden the rule of the Europeans, the fall of Egypt, the rise of the European powers. What's taking place? When you look at the beginning of Genesis, you have clear as day, them, talk about Egypt and eventually them coming into power, so on and so forth. But, we're going to get into this later. But you have, as I said before, Rahab taking the people in and her basically explaining to them that, she understand who they are. But we want to read this. So it's saying here in this chapter 2:9, and she said unto the men, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror, choice word, terror, is fallen upon us. Think about that. And that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when ye come out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites that were on the other side, Jordan, Sihon, and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and in earth beneath. And again, you have to get into this to understand what we're talking about here with these people calling this a loving and just God. I mean, we make ourselves believe in these explanations, but you have to ask yourself, I mean, it's not saying in the book that I want you to go out and try to convert these people. If they convert and listen to you and believe that the Lord is with you and what have you, then we leave these people alone. They can join the group. He's saying, forget that. Give them no chance. He's saying, forget that. Give them no chance, no choice to survive. Just kill them. And it makes you want to understand, because we're not giving any story. We're not giving a story or justification for the murder and genocide of these people. Plain and simple. It's not given to us. Why kill them? Unless this is takeover, which is what it is. We trying to justify it in the sense that, God knows all. He knows what's best. And for some reason, these people are supposed to be wiped out and destroyed. But when you have a person come forth with an understanding, I mean, it's one thing to think of it as if these people are some like monsters or something, devil worshippers, demons, or what have you. And we're going to get into this later because there's a reason why they keep putting these people with worshiping Baal, which we'll get into that. It's no justification, though. It's not saying anything like that. It's just saying utterly destroy them, get them out of here, because this is a takeover. We wasn't doing nothing wrong. But when you have a person come forward and just seemingly be normal, and it's basically asking you for mercy, saying, we heard about y'all. Like, if it's something that we can do to change in order to not be slaughtered, we'll do it. But, it seems as if, and as she said, from her point of view, the terror of you and your God has fallen on us, and we're trembling and we're scared and we're worried. Do what you got to do. Don't kill my people, is what she'll say later. But look at the context in which she put it in. And your God and your Lord, and they try to make it like, this God is the right God or what have you. And it's crazy. But throughout in the Old Testament, it's giving you the understanding of these different gods, plain and simple. And that's something that a lot of people don't just pick up on or even elaborate more on, is why is it that it seems as if God is worried about these gods as if they really exist and have more power or equal power to him. That's something you got to think about, which again, we'll get into. It's deep, but you got to look at that. Like, why is it like, if you're supposed to be the number one, the only guy who created all this, who is these so-called guys they're talking about? Because you're not going to sit there and worship these guys if there's no power coming from them. But yet we turn and we look at Israel, the Israelites, and they come in, they got all this power and all this magic and stuff happening with them, and they conquering and taking over tell me who's the true God. Why would it even be any opposition to this God who created everything? Why would you create opposition for yourself? And this is stuff they're not going to talk about. You have to ask yourselves these questions. If you're a God, you're a jealous God. You wiping out millions of people because you're a jealous God, because they worship in things that you created. Why would you create your competition? It just doesn't make sense. So you have to understand when it's trying to give you takeover, conquest, and no explanation. That's what it's giving you. And it's the preacher's job to get you to accept that, for you to just say, well, it's what God wants. So, oh, well, that's the way it is. And this is what people are doing. So the Hebrews, as we're going to get into in the next book, in Judges, more crushing for the Hebrews, as you'll see. They're trying to look at this stuff leading up to, because we already passed Deuteronomy, but leading up to modern day and giving you an excuse as to why we are in this situation. And as you're going to see in Judges, and, it's just crazy. But this is sort of kind of, as I've been talking about, the conquest of us and what's taking place in them trying to basically justify somehow that this is supposed to happen. But you have Rahab basically saying, we heard about you. And as I said before, you would think she's talking about, we heard about the parting of the sea. We heard about this. Remember, she said that. We know about the river drying up. We know about y'all people going to conquer. And if she heard about it, then other people heard about it. Other civilizations heard about it. Nobody wrote about it. Nobody talked about it. Nobody put it in stone. There's no myths or legends that was passed around during that time in these areas about this stuff happening. So it's only in the Bible. It only exists within the book itself because it's bullshit. So that's also one of the reasons why, God tells them in the Bible to basically destroy everything, leave nothing alive, no person alive, destroy all of their idols, destroy everything, and just basically keep, the cattle, split that up and, anything that's edible, what have you, but destroy all the idols, destroy all the people. This is their way to try to justify the fact that, well, it was nobody alive to write about what happened. You understand how that fits? It's real convenient for them now, so they can just say, well, they killed everybody. So how could these people write about, what was going on? But they didn't kill every civilization. Now, you have the Greeks themselves in real history. If they are not these Hebrews, then why haven't they gave us crazy history about these Jews? Same thing with the Egyptians and the Africans. We don't find this stuff. So again, what Herodotus never mentioning no Hebrews, it's crazy. It's bogus. So, continue with the story. You have, as I said, the two spies basically come in and Rahab takes them in. They ask her about the spies, what have you. She lies to say, she don't know what they're talking about. You have Joshua basically commanding the priest to take the Ark of the Covenant, because now it's another thing you got to understand. Before, which I'll talk about, you have, Moses talking to God. Now, when you see in Joshua, they have the Ark of the Covenant, which is like, their power right now. So you have Joshua tell the priest, take the Ark of the Covenant to the River Jordan, and it dries up or what have you. So, that takes place in the Bible. So it's saying here, this is Joshua chapter 5, start at 1 here. And it came to pass when all the kings of the Amorites, which were on the side of Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites, which were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of Jordan from before the children of Israel until we were passed over, that their hearts melted. Neither was there spirit in them anymore because of the children of Israel. Boasting them up, making them seem like they're super powerful. At that time, the Lord said unto Joshua, make these sharp knives and circumcise again the children of Israel the second time. And Joshua made him sharp knives and circumcised the children of Israel at the hill of the foreskins. So again, and it's one of the things I wanted to get into, because, if you're going to be doing research on this and history on this, you're going to go back and you're going to look at the context of circumcision, which we, as far as we go back, we see it clear as day with the ancient Egyptians. That's something that cannot be hidden because the reliefs are there. The glyphs are there. and we see it everywhere. This is very ancient. We've been finding proof of circumcision for a long time. Now, it's many reasons why you would have circumcision. There's a lot of spiritual reasons of being clean, when you of age to go into a woman. Now, some will say, you can look at it as when you have the foreskin over the tip of the penis, that is unclean. So much dirt and disease can get down into there, which is why they peel it back and cut it off when you're of age. Now, we've seen this in many tribes. The Africans do it, that it's sort of a way to basically tell when a person is old enough to begin to conceive or to begin to have a family. It's like, okay, the foreskin is completely covered the tip of the penis. And this is like when you're coming into manhood, it's time to cut it away. And when it's cut away, as in, you see with Greeks, you can be a warrior. You're a soldier. Now you have to go back and look at a lot of the Greek statues and a lot of the statues in ancient Rome or what have you, why they always show that penis. A lot of people can never put that together. Why you see the statues and penis is hanging out. It is to say that this is a man. This is not a teenager, a child. It's a man. His penis is circumcised. He was a warrior, a fighter, or what have you. But again, we find this in ancient Kemet before any other civilization. And if they're giving it to you in the Bible as if the Hebrews are the ones who basically created this stuff, it's bogus. So again, we go to Herodotus. Now it says here about Herodotus, the Greek historian Herodotus, writing in the mid-5th century BCE, stated the Egyptians practiced circumcision for the sake of cleanliness, considering it better to be cleanly than comely. He also wrote, they, Egyptians, are the only people in the world, they at least as much as have learned the practice from them who use circumcision, basically saying that anybody else who basically use it might have learned it from them. When you look at the history of circumcision, again, it says down here, introduction, the practice of male genital mutilation is far older than recorded history. Certainly, it is far older than the biblical account of Abraham, Genesis 17. It seems to have originated in Eastern Africa long before this time. And I'm going to come down here. It says, much later in the Hellenic period, about 140 CE, the Jewish, understand this, why are you giving us Jewish when we're talking about Hellenistic period? Much later in the Hellenistic period, about 140 CE, the Jewish authorities modified circumcision procedures to make it possible for a Jew to appear to be an uncircumcised Greek. A radical new procedure called Phariah was introduced by the priests and rabbis. In this procedure, the foreskin was stripped away from the glands with which it is fused in the infant. In a painful procedure known today as a synochotomy, more foreskin was removed than before, and the injury was correspondingly greater with the introduction of Phariah. The glands could not easily be recovered, and so no Jew male would easily be able to appear as an uncircumcised Greek. This radical modified procedure eventually was adopted by the medical profession and is the circumcision operation used today. Now, the only way you would be worried about a Jew appearing as an uncircumcised Greek is if they're the same people. It's just that simple. And that's basically what we're talking about here. Now, we're talking about the 2nd century CE, basically around that time. Everything is done. Most of the Africans are out of Northern Africa and down into Lower Africa, what they call Sub-Saharan Africa. And, the ones that were Hebrews during that time who were told they were Hebrews have went out and have spread that word, to Ethiopia and into Lower Africa that they were Jews. And, what the later now new European Jews coming in and mixing with the Arabs, what have you, after they took over, and then it's basically spread, and you have this whole, big, spreading of the Jewish faith with the creation of the now converted Arabs and Africans into, Jews or what have you. They spread it around. So, this is just going to show, what's taking place around that time, the thought process and the way things were around that time, with people having to understand or to be clear of who was a Jew and who was a Greek and what have you. So, with circumcision, again, it's just one of the things that they took from Kemet. And it's one of the things so that they can go back and we can go look in Kemet and say, see, that must be the Hebrews being circumcised. But that really more fits the black Hebrews, because when you go and look at a lot of those reliefs, it's black skinned people, dark skinned people. So, but they want to piggyback onto that practice. The fact that you have circumcision taking place in Kemet and they were supposedly captive in Kemet, just trying to steal. That's all it is. We're going to see this throughout the Bible. Them trying to steal little pieces, little by little, to try to fit themselves into history. But it's bogus, because clearly, and you have Herodotus, who never once mentions anything about no Jews or what have you, giving testimony to the fact that this is something that was known that the ancient Egyptians did. And we see it still clear as day on the reliefs. So now what you basically have is Joshua, he runs into this man who describes himself as the commander of God's armies or what have you. Joshua basically bows to him, tells him some stuff, what have you. And then Joshua tells the priest, basically command the priest, to take the Ark of the Covenant and to basically march around the walls of Jericho for 6 days. And on the 7th day, the walls of Jericho come crashing down, and the Israelites run in there and basically kill everything. Everybody kills everybody except for Rahab and her family. As I said, God tells them, kill everybody, spares them. So you have that happen. They go into Jericho, kill everything. So you have them coming into the city of Ai, just sparing us from reading through all this crap. But, coming to the city of Ai, and they basically get embarrassed because they're not able to defeat these people. What happens is you have Achan, who was one of the Israelites. He basically stole idols and stuff from Jericho after they defeated Jericho, and they wasn't winning any battles. So they find out that he stole the stuff, and they basically stone him to death. And then they go back and win and start, defeating Ai, which is the name of the city. And they take the king and they basically hang him from a tree. So the Bible is describing this stuff. So, what I want you to get again out of this is conquest and understanding the areas, the land, the part of the country that we're talking about here, where we're looking at the area of Jericho, and all this stuff was once African territory. And it's hard for people today. It's hard for people today to look at a lot of these lands, because we have been, generationally deceived. And, generations were taught different things, and we have basically not even really been taught about the people of this land. It's until we go back and look at the history that we see something is wrong. And it's the same thing over there with them. They're not taught about their true history or the true history of these lands. It's all rooted within religion, and it has to be that way. The reason why the Muslims can look at that land and understand what's taking place there is because of the religion. So again, if you have a civilization where the entire religion or the entire civilization or the system is based off religion, then they're going to believe what's in the religious book. It's the same thing throughout North Africa. You pay attention. When you look at these people, that's mostly the Berber people, the Arabs, what have you, the mixed people, abiding by these religions, especially if it's Islam. And that was one of the reasons why Islam is one of the best religions to put these people in, because it's haram to look outside of it. Plain and simple. You have to have faith. There is no mention. Nobody is going back to look into the past. All they know, if you grow up in a society where all you know is this biblical or religious story, you're going to believe in that context that the future as well as the past is within the context of that religion. So nobody's going back and looking at the actual facts of the land, the territory. So it's hard, as I said, for people, and I get a lot of emails from people about Greece, them not understanding the history. And you just see it today, as we see it, majority Europeans, white people everywhere. It's hard for people to even fathom it. People don't believe that Carthage was a black city. It's a black territory in Tunisia. That was part of Greece, one of the main hubs. Greece was black, as we talked about. But Carthage is really important because we see what happened. Talked about this in the previous video where we see in Tunisia, the Romans basically come in. If you know about the Punic Wars, we know what took place. The Punic Wars was basically the Romans coming into Carthage or coming into Tunisia to basically take that territory from the Africans. It's just that simple. So the facts is there. The proof is there. And when I say you look at their scholars, they'll tell you, because you can't hide it. There are mass graves all throughout North Africa filled with African bodies, plain and simple. So we going to take a look at this. Let's look at Lucien Berthelon. Talks about this. Founder of the Institute of Carthage has examined skulls from Carthage. 100% had short face and or dolichocephalism. Talked about this before. Dolichocephalic is the protruding of the bottom of the skull, the mouth. It pokes out. The African arts poke out. You look at the Sphinx. You see that clear as day. It's African features. Stephanie Sell, or Giselle, a director of the Museum of Algiers, said the following about Berthelon's work. Several skulls collected in the cemeteries present Negroid features. Let's keep going here. We can see that the Carthaginians' funerary rites were similar to those of the Egyptians. Finally, he said the following regarding the great priestess of Tanit, one of the most important people of Carthage. Those who during these last years have visited the Museum of Lavighieri in Carthage remember this magnificent sarcophagus of the priestess of Tanit, discovered by the Professor Delattre. This sarcophagus, which is the most adorned, the most artistic among all that have been discovered, and which external image probably represents the goddess herself, must have been the sepulchre of a very high religious person. Yet the woman who was buried in it presented Negroid features. She was of African race. As for Stephanie Cassell, he concludes the following. And understand, these are people who go back and basically go over the findings of, older historical people or older researchers. And this happens a lot. You'll find this a lot within research when you're doing your research, that you'll have, years later, people who go over the work of people who said all these, amazing things that came up with this research long ago to try. A lot of people do it to try to, present new evidence or present new findings or what have you, or to try to change the work of what was said. So as for Stephanie Cassell, he concludes the following. Anthropological analysis of the skeleton found in Carthage prove that there is no racial or ethnic unity. The Semitic type, white Berber, characterized by the race found, a thin aquiline nose, has not been found in Carthage. On the other hand, the dolichocephalic type, with a short face, a body more stretched out than the legs, is a common feature to the skeletons found in Lebanon and in Tyre, matched with the Phoenicians, who also were Negroid. Of course, they were Egyptians. The majority of the Carthaginian population was Negroid. And that's a dagger, people.